Simple factorization is what we're going to look at in this video, split into 4 parts. We're going to start off by looking at factorization involving numbers only, and then looking at letters, and then looking at letters and numbers, and finally looking at some brackets. So the way my videos work, I'm going to do the example on the left, which is I do. You are then going to press pause and have a go at the example on the right, which is you do. And at the bottom, we can see the type of example it is. So here, we have been asked to factorize the following, which is 2x plus 10. Now, it's worth me noting that factorization is the opposite of expanding brackets, okay? So how do you factor this? Well, you have to look at what's common in this and this. And when I say common, with the numbers, if you just look at the numbers, what times table do both these numbers go in? They both go in the 2 times table. So we can take that out as a factor, write brackets, and copy this sign, so the plus sign in there. Okay, so hopefully it's clear where the 2 came from. The 2 is common in both of these. Now you have to ask yourself, what do you multiply by 2 to get 2x? That's just going to be x. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what do I multiply by 2 to get 10? That's going to be 5. And this is your final answer. Now, if you want to check if your answer is right, just expand this out. That gives you 2x plus 10. Okay? Like I said, factorization is just the opposite of expansion. So hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at the example on the right. Now, what's common in 3x and 9? Well, they both go into the 3 times table. So I'll take the 3 out and I'll put the sign in the middle. Now, what do I times by 3 to get 3x? Which is going to be x. And then what do I multiply by 3 to get 9? That'll just be 3. So the final answer is 3 bracket x minus 3. Now moving on. Now this might look a little bit trickier, but it's the exact same thing. What times table do both these numbers go in? So immediately looking at that, I can see they both go in the 9 times table. So we'll put 9 outside, sign in the middle. And 9 times 3 is 27. And 9 times 9 is 81. Now, this isn't the final answer, and the reason for that is because this isn't fully factorized. Now, if you pay close attention, this can still be factorized. 3x minus 9 can still be factorized. So if I write this out again, I can take out a factor of 3. So if you're looking at just this and just this, I can take out a factor of 3, and I can write this as x minus 3. Okay, and now the final answer here becomes 27 bracket x minus 3. Now, if you expand this out, you get 27x, which we have there, minus 81, which we have there. Now, yes, you get the same answer if you do this, but this is not fully factorized. Like I said, you could still factorize a step further because you had, if I use my highlighter, in fact, this and this whole thing could still be factorized. So always check your answer. So on the right, if you look at this, so I can see 36 and 24, they both go into the 6 times table. So we have 6, put the brackets in, the sign in. So this will be 4x minus 6. Now again, ask yourself the question, can this be simplified further? Yes, it can, because 6 wasn't the smallest, biggest factor it could go into. So 4x and 6 can be written as, we can take out a factor of 2. And then all you do here is multiply that and that. That gives you 12 and leave the rest in the brackets. So that then gives you that. And that is your final answer. And maybe you did spot that. Maybe you spotted the biggest factor that you could take out was 12. Okay? And if you did spot that from the start, you're fine. But if you didn't spot that, you'll always have to ask yourself the question, is the answer in the simplest form? So here's some practice questions. Press pause and have a go. Here are the answers. Mark your work. Now moving on, we're looking at factorization with letters, but the exact same thing. With letters, if they've got powers, just look at the smallest power. So I've put the power of 1 there. So when there's not a power, it's the power of 1. We take the power of 1 outside, we write the brackets, and then you ask yourself the same question. What do I multiply by x to get x squared? That's just going to be x. Then you ask yourself, what do I multiply by x to get just x? That's just going to be 1. And that is your answer there. So remember, hopefully you press pause and had a go at this. Take out the smallest power. That's just n. And then that just becomes n plus 1. Moving on, exact same thing, take out the smallest power, that's n cubed. Now ask yourself the question, what do I multiply by this to get n to the power of 11? That's just going to be n to the power of 8. What do I multiply by this to get n cubed? That's just going to be 1. And again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at this. So we take out the smallest power, and that's x to the power of 6 plus 1. So here's some practice questions, press pause and have a go. Here are the answers, mark your work. Now moving on, so here we have letters and numbers. So what's common? Now with the numbers, we don't really have anything common, so we can just ignore that. With the letters, we do have an x and an x squared. We can take out an x, the smallest power can come out. And again, ask yourself the same question. What do I multiply by this to get 6x squared? So there must be a 6 and there must be an x. So that's 6x. And then what do I multiply by this to get x? That'll just be 1. So the final answer is that there. So again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at this. Take out the smallest power so that y can just come out. So we have 4y squared minus 1. Moving on. So again, with this one, same questions. Well, what's common in the numbers? Well, they both go into the 11 times table. What's common in the ends? Well, the smallest power can come out. So we can take out 11 and we can take out n to the power of 6. And now it's the exact same questions. What do I multiply by 11 and 6 to get 44 and 10? So if you focus on the numbers, I will need a 4 because 4 times 11 gives me the 44. So that's done. And what do I multiply by n to the power of 6 to get n to the power of 10? Well, when you're multiplying indices, you just add them together. So 6 will need 4 to make 10. And on the other side, it's the same thing. So that gives you 11, which gives you 99 and 6. So again, hopefully you press pause now to go at this. Now 30 and 40 are both divisible by the 10 times table. So let's take 10 out. With the x's, take the smallest power out. And that will be 3x to the power of 5 minus 8x to the power of 3. Is that fully factorized? Yes, it is. So moving on, here's some practice questions. Press pause and have a go. Here are the answers to mark your work. So you can see with these ones down here, fully factorized forms are the ones I've put right at the bottom. Okay, so if you came up with anything above them, those aren't quite fully factorized. Now moving on, how do you do something like this? Now with this, it might look really confusing, but if you take a step back for a second, I can write x plus 5 as just, let's just say x, right? So if I gave you this question, you know how to do that because we've done a few examples on this now. So you know to factorize this, it would just be a case of that. And it's the exact same thing with the question above, okay? So keep this in mind. I'll put it down here. So I can see what's common in both. We take out the smallest power. That's what we've always done. So the smallest power here is the power of 1. So that's your factor. You write your big brackets there. And now you ask yourself, actually, what do I multiply by this to get that? Well, there's a power of 2 there, so it must be x plus 5. And then you ask yourself, well, what do I multiply by this to get 4 lots of them? That must just be 4. Now with this, you can tidy it up a little bit more. This bit can be tidied up. So we can write this as x plus 5, and you can get rid of the brackets inside, and that just gives you x plus 9. And what have I done there? I've just gotten rid of this bracket, and I've done 5 plus 4 to get me that 9. That is your answer there. So again, on the right, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go. So I can take out a factor of the smallest power. So the smallest power here is the power of 1. And then inside it, that'll just become y plus 2 plus 3. And then that's just y plus 2 and then y plus 5. Moving on. So again, take out the smallest power. And just taking care with signs here. That is your answer there. So hopefully with this one, you have pressed pause and had a go. So again, taking out the smallest power. And that is that there. So here's some practice questions. Press pause and have a go. Here are the answers. Now, if you would like some more practice on this, I've got a full worksheet over on my website linked in the comments down below. And if you found this video useful, I've got loads of other content like this on my channel. Do check it out.